Welcome to State of Flux. Here I am Matt, and September the 4th be with you. This is the 5th installment of my look back at the Star Wars movies, tackling Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. And this one is not my favorite movie. I think it's not most people's favorite Star Wars movie. However, I don't think it's like an unwatchable movie. There's moments in this movie that really soar. This movie even has one of my favorite moments of the entire prequel trilogy. It's just surrounded by an overbloated mess of not spectacular, and that's truly unfortunate. So let's start with what works. What works with Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones? I am struggling. I'm just kidding. Ewan Mcgregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was okay in Phantom Menace. Here he really strides in and he takes ownership of the entire feature. He is really good. All of his moments really sing and soar, and this is one of those movies where you just kind of fast forward through the non-Obi-Wan parts for the most part, because he's what works with this movie. Padme is okay. I like some of the stuff they do with her character, especially when she's in Naboo, talking with her people, her lot. Some of that stuff really plays well for me. I think that Hayden Christensen brings a really good energy to his physical performance in the film. And that's about all the energy he brings to the film. Calling him Mannequin Skywalker is not too far out of the realm of reality. However, I will say that Hayden Christensen is a tremendous actor, and anybody who does not believe me need only watch the movie Shattered Glass, which came out a year after this. One of the best movies of the 2000s. Easily one of my 10 favorite movies of that decade. He's spectacular in it, and a true actor. Give him another shot. Watch that movie. Continuing on with the things that I really liked, the romance theme, the Padme Anakin romance theme, I think it's called, Across the Stars. John Williams really did great work with all of the Phantom Menace score. This score is, I think, the weakest of the three prequel movies, but that love theme, I think, is robust and beautiful and haunting in a forlorn love kind of way. I like how we see the assemblage of the Jedi working as more warriors. These are not trained warriors. They're able to be warriors, but seeing them in that capacity was really cool the first time around. I think the entire last act, the sixth reel, as Lucas always liked to call it, is really, really quite strong. The stuff in the Coliseum, I think, works very well. I love the nods to the Ray Harryhausen battle with the giant would-be stop-motion monsters, now very digital monsters. However, the digital monsters totally worked in that scene. In fact, of all the digital effects in the movie, of which this movie is overloaded with them, I think the three monsters that we get in the Coliseum are all great. They look great, and those hold up the best now. You can tell the animators really took a lot of care and love into those scenes. I liked the lightsaber fight between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Count Dooku. This movie has Christopher Lee. He's shamefully underused, but he's in it, and that makes me happy. The lightsaber fight that they have is good. My favorite part of it is most people's least favorite part. I thought that the direction of having a really fascinating lightsaber fight where the choreography doesn't matter. The choreography is completely insignificant. What matters is the determination on the face of Anakin and the face of Christopher Lee's Count Dooku as they're sizing each other up and then just parrying each other's blows. both fixated into each other's eyes, and you just see the gleams of red and the gleams of blue as the two combat each other. My favorite part of the whole battle. Everything on Tatooine is great. Love all the Tatooine stuff. My favorite part of the... I'm going to reel it back in. I love almost everything in the Tatooine stuff. I think, best bit of acting we get in the entirety of Attack of the Clones is when Anakin meets Watto, and he's like, "Chut chut, Watto," and then Watto looks at him, and he's like, "Annie? Little Annie? Annie, it is you!" That moment of recognition, that just, the look and the double glance and everything, the digital work on Watto in this was spectacular, and that little performance, that 30 seconds, is the best bit of acting we get in the entirety of Attack of the Clones. Mace Windu's there, and he's kind of cool, and I like seeing Kit Fisto and the different looks of some of these other alien Jedi. I like the look of the Kaminoans. I think what J.J. Abrams kind of understood that people really liked from the original trilogy of Star Wars, and he really made an effort in bringing that back for the sequel trilogy, is real people, real costumes, real sets, real locations. They didn't like the digital stuff. That's what they did not respond well to with the prequel trilogy. I would not disagree with that. However, I do think that you lost some interesting aliens in the way they did things in the sequel trilogy. Because the Kaminoans themselves, these little fuckers right here, they can only be done in digital, really, and I thought that they worked exquisitely, especially their eyes. They have the whole galaxy in their eyes, and that's fascinating visually. This movie has a lot of very interesting visual things. The last thing that I'll mention that I really quite liked is, let's backtrack again. Tatooine, I love that little acting moment with Watto. The best scene that I was talking about in this entire film is Anakin's discovery of his mother, the way his mother dies in his arms, the rage that builds inside of him, the music swells with it, and then he goes outside and he slashes it down, but that little bit of music, the look on Hayden's face, Hayden gives a wonderful performance in that scene, and pretty much that scene only, in this movie. I want to stress, Hayden Christensen is a spectacular actor, and people need to give him more credit. He just did not have the direction he needed to be the performer I obviously see he is capable of being with other movies such as Life as a House, Shattered Glass, a couple other movies here and there, but we're not dissecting the career of Hayden Christensen, though we should. He's a good actor. But that scene is my favorite scene in the movie, the death of Shmee. The last thing I'll say that I kind of like is the framework, and then this is going to dip directly into the things that I don't like with Attack of the Clones. The framework of this movie is built around, this is kind of George Lucas's attempt at two specific genres. He wants to do this big, epic, Titanic-esque romance, this bridging of two people who shouldn't be together due to class, due to job, due to many different reasons. And how this forbidden love will eventually build an empire and then watch it crumble. And that's fine in theory. The other story is this deep detective noir. And it's filmed, it's photographed through several scenes like a noir. All the stuff in Coruscant in the beginning, I think, is photographed well and gives you a kind of noir take on Star Wars. However, the blending of these two elements really doesn't work. The noir and the epic forbidden romance at no point marry each other. They don't even high-five each other. They obviously were not looking at their elbows when they went for the high-five. They just whiffed it. And the whole movie just doesn't work because it's not one thing or the other thing. It's just kind of like a mess both ways. The screenplay by Lucas and Jonathan Sayles really does not work. Especially the dialogue, the thing that really truly sinks the romance, because the romance in story is well written. In dialogue and execution is where it completely falls flat. The actors really just don't have much chemistry. There's not much going on there, which is like palpable when watching it. And kind of a shame. But the dialogue is just so flowery and amateurish. It's just not good. Him flirting with the like, I hate sand. It's coarse and it's rough and it gets everywhere. That just doesn't work. I will say that Hayden Christensen, I keep going back on him. A lot of people rag on him. I've been ragging on him through most of this thing. Kind of not fairly. I think a lot of the choices he made were acting choices, probably boosted by what Lucas was looking for. It just doesn't read well on film, which is he's speaking very flat and very even the entire time. And I feel like that was a specific choice that was made with his character. Because he's clearly a being that is filled with extreme emotion, extreme love, extreme anger, extreme eventual hate, extreme happiness. Everything to him is, all of his feelings are an extreme, but the Jedi are not allowed any of that. So to temper that, he keeps everything even, and because he does that, he's talking like this through most of the movie. And it sounds like somebody slipped something into his drink, and it just doesn't really fly. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest part. Everybody rags on it, and probably rightfully so. The special effects go a little wonky, and I think that could have been okay had they been utilized a little better. Like, we're given really cool, interesting, distinct, alien-looking worlds, but the movie just doesn't have, like, anything tangible to connect to. Like, Phantom Menace did. Most of the Naboo stuff really was physical there. All the Tatooine stuff was physically there. They shot on sets and they extended them using digital technology. Here, they did that to some extent, but it doesn't read that way. It just reads digital. It reads artificial. And I know that was kind of what Lucas was trying to see if he could push the envelope and really do that and create, and he did. And like, there's interesting miniatures slash bigatures, as the Lord of the Rings people call it, with like the Colosseum is clearly a filmed location, filming a miniature that's probably like no bigger than my nearly circular couch. And then they just composite the people into it. Stuff like that works. What doesn't work is like the battle that Obi-Wan has with Jango Fett on Kamino, the Kaminoan planet and stuff, the cloner planet. This movie has Jango Fett, introduction to Boba Fett's father. Boba Fett, a much-loved character. Everybody was excited to see another Fett brought into the fold. I remember when this movie was first coming out, a lot of my friends were like, yes! And he too does not really contribute much to the movie, although I will say he's really well played, and I like seeing him return for The Mandalorian. But yeah, you get to expand the lore of Boba Fett a little bit. Whether or not you go with that is another thing. I had no problem with it, but I also never had any attachment to Boba Fett. I'd always been under the impression that my memory of when the prequels were announced was that Boba Fett was a clone, and that Boba Fett was one of the clones from the quote-unquote Clone Wars. And my understanding was that all the stormtroopers were clones, This is all extrapolated from a magazine I read in 1997, and that Boba Fett was just one that had lived on. And all the stormtroopers originally weren't stormtroopers; they wore the Mandalorian masks and stuff like that. That's my memory from this magazine I read in 1997. Back when they announced that they were doing this prequel. So when I saw the battle droids and stuff, I was like, well, that's a switch. I was expecting a bunch of the Mandalorian-looking Boba Fett guys, and we didn't get that. So when they showed up in this, and that's what it turned out to be, I was like, oh, he did, it was there, just he altered it. By the time they got to the second movie, things were altered quite a bit. None of those costumes were ever made. The clone troopers, they didn't make a single costume, not even for reference. All of those are digital, every one that you see, which is really impressive when you're looking at Padme in the sand on the ground after she falls from the ship in that really contrived scene. And she lands and she's like, and then the clone trooper runs up to her and she gets up, and then you see them running away and his footprints are in the sand. All that's digital, and that's really impressive. So there is some really good digital effects work, but there's just so much of it that your eye doesn't latch onto any sense of normalcy, so that's why it feels artificial. Had this movie gone full animation, I don't think people would be complaining as much, because it's a gorgeous movie in all other respects. But I'm rambling. This movie just isn't great. The screenplay is what really sinks it. It gets overly political. I think that's something that people really didn't respond to. I don't mind that. However, I think that the political nature of the movie is very kind of blah in its approach. The politics themselves are interesting. The presentation of them is where it kind of falls flat, which is the repeated refrain for Attack of the Clones. The movie downplays Jar Jar Binks and repurposes C-3PO and R2-D2 as the comic relief of the film. And I will say, I think that mostly doesn't work. However, there's something that's hilariously hidden with this entire plot that does make me laugh every single time I watch it. And it only works if you watch them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, in this movie, in episode 1, Anakin builds C-3PO, abandons that robot when he goes off to his Jedi thing without even having any coverings. He's an unfinished robot. His mom, at some point, Anakin's mother at some point, finishes him and gets the armor plating that we're kind of familiar with. Really crappy, shoddily done, all rusted looking. And is brought along with Shmee when she is freed from her slavery and marries Owen's father, Klieg, I think is his name, Klieg Lars. And they now have this robot who, he's a moisture farmer, so he's C-3PO's farming moisture on a desert planet, which can't be easy. He's there to communicate with them. They clearly don't have a whole lot of money because they don't have a whole lot of property or anything, and certainly Owen complained about it in episode 4. Anakin comes back, meets 3PO, and is like, oh, that's my droid. Well, Mom doesn't need him anymore because she's all dead and in the dirt and stuff. I'll just take him. So he just takes his C-3PO back and flies off. And then, a couple movies later, you have Owen desperately trying to keep his farm afloat. He and Luke end up purchasing the same exact droid that they had to begin with. They clearly didn't have enough money to get the communications droid they needed that could communicate with the moisture farm. So in essence, Anakin just dicked over this whole family. Luke and Owen buy the same droid again to communicate with the farm, and the next day Owen dies. That amuses me to no end. Once I piece that whole thing together, it's brilliant. But yeah, Attack of the Clones has. I didn't even talk about Yoda yet. Digital Yoda is in this, and I think for what they should have done is married the two. They should have had a puppet Yoda for most of it and a digital Yoda for the combatant moments. Because there's no real reason why he shouldn't have been puppeted in those scenes. But I don't mind digital Yoda. He doesn't look great in this movie. That's my complaint. In the next one, he looks pretty fantastic, but in this one, he just looks really artificial. And the fight scene that he does with everybody, or with what's his name, Count Dooku, I've kind of gone back and forth on. First time I saw it as a 15, 16-year-old kid in the movie theater, I cheered. I remember having all the old Kenner toys, and I would play with them constantly and stuff, and I always had Yoda, and his hand was molded to hold his little walking stick, and I always put a lightsaber in his hand and had him battle the Emperor. That was always like my dream fight to see. And I did that so many times, and I had the Emperor had like a hand, and I'd put Darth Vader's lightsaber in it, and then I'd have them fight. So when that moment where he unfurls his robe, and then he collects his lightsaber, and then he does his like, and then jumps, I cheered. And the whole theater responded insanely well to that. It doesn't work with me quite so much anymore. He hops around a little too much. Like, one or two I would have been fine with. I think it should have been more that he, like, distorts bounces off his surroundings or uses the Force to propel himself. But the way you see it, it looks like he's doing all the acrobatics. I think he should be, like, willing the Force to guide him and sell the idea that way a little bit more. Because we know how powerful with the Force he is in lifting up the ship. I think they should have done things like that and pull himself from locations or bounce himself up using Force like push and stuff to propel him. But I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have even fixed it either. He just looks a little wonky having him fight Christopher Lee, who clearly isn't Christopher Lee. It's a man in like Christopher Lee mask and makeup that they digitally put his like Christopher Lee's eyes and nose on, and they're fighting. And he, like, how irritating is it to fight a little dude like that? Most of that fight is great up until the Yoda Dooku fight. However, watching it with a kid does wonders. So I've been telling you what my daughter thought of these movies as we went. This is the first Star Wars movie she didn't respond to. Once the movie ended, I asked her, "What did you think of this movie?" And she was like, "That is a long movie. It was just so long." And I was like, "It was." And I'm like, "But did you like it?" And she was like, "It was long." And so she just clearly wasn't like she didn't gravitate towards it like she even did Phantom Menace or any of the three other ones. That said, she really enjoyed Yoda, and she like was laughing out loud when Yoda did his lightsaber thing and had his little fight. That was pretty hysterical. Watching the excitement. But then she had me pause it mid-fight, and she's like, "How's he going to walk around with his stick?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "He threw his stick. Now how's he going to get that back? He needs that to walk." Like, she was so concerned that poor little Yoda was going to have to hobble around. And sure enough, right after the fight ends, you see Yoda being like, "Ah," and then he uses the little stick and does the little Force thing. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else I need to say about this. The whole like noir aspect of the film is built on really shoddy logic. Like, this is Palpatine needing to get rid of Padme, who is in the position of power, but the wrench in his, like, the thorn in his side, if you will. So he hires a bounty hunter to eliminate her, who hires a bounty hunter to eliminate her, who enlists some slugs to eliminate her. Anakin kills the slugs. Anakin sort of kills the well, I guess it's Obi-Wan, and Jango kill the second assassin. Jango gets killed by Mace Windu, and the Palpatine still doesn't get to hear, but still gets what he wants, with Jar Jar and giving him the power he needs in order to create the Grand Clone Army. The subplot with the Clone Army and General Sifo-Dyas, Jedi Master Sifo-Dyas, I should say, we're never given any indication in the films as to who that is. Why didn't they just say Qui-Gon and have this be something that Qui-Gon was doing on behalf, or just, Count Dooku or something? It makes it confusing, especially when you watch it all the way through and then watch it back a second time or something, and you're like, I don't know who that is. This trilogy is done and I still don't know. I'm assuming the Clone Wars TV show delves into that a little bit. I've only seen a few seasons of that, but even in the seasons I've watched, they hadn't. And so this is just a weird subplot that remains. The whole movie is just, the refrain is, it's a mess. However, I'm going to go off of Roger Ebert's assertion. A good movie has to have 3 good scenes and no bad scenes. 3 good scenes. Let's see if we can get there. Number 1. The death of Shmee. The rise of his anger, and Anakin attacking the Sand People. That's a very good scene. The Colosseum fight at the end. That is a really good scene. Really fun, really energetic. Followed immediately with the attack of the clones, and the clones walking through the dust and shooting the battle droids, and the back and forth using excellent lighting. This film has great lighting effects to demonstrate war. And for the third one, let's go with the Annie, little Annie, the scene with Watto. So we can get there. We can get the 3 good scenes. All right, no bad scenes. Can we do it? We can't. There's just too many. The scene where Anakin is having his temper tantrum in the shed after his mother died is a pretty not good scene. He is just demonstrating and confessing to genocide, demonstrating extreme evil in his actions and his feelings and whatnot. Confessing this to the woman that he loves, the love story we're meant to cling on to, and why is she not running away at that point or offering concern? She's consoling this man, and that is kind of problematic, and signs of toxicity there for sure. The illogical plot with the assassination attempts on Padme, it doesn't gel. I can pick apart all the different scenes where this movie really doesn't work. I'm not a big fan of the speeder chase in the beginning, where Anakin's like, "Excuse me," and Obi-Wan's like, "I hate it when he does that." That stuff just doesn't fly. It looks like just garbage. So I can't do it. I can't give this movie 3 stars because of that. The scenes that I like a lot. But the scenes that I don't like just leave me bored. So I'm not going to give it 3 stars out of 4. I'm going to go with 2 stars. I could be charitable and give it 2.5 because some of the other movies later on down the line that I think are in contention for the worst Star Wars movie. I think there's 4 that you could argue are the worst Star Wars movie and make a compelling argument. This one kind of being the crown jewel of them. But the thing is, this movie's at least original. All the content within this film is original, and all the content is designed to push the story forward. There's no regression of any kind, and we're not force-fed, completely recycled ideas and visuals. Certainly there's some, like, tip of the hats to the original trilogy or the previous film, but there's nothing that's directly recycled. So for that, I could give the movie 2.5. But it's hard to do, especially with how just almost unwatchable it is in its blandness. And a Star Wars should never be bland. So I'm going to give this 2 out of 4 stars. Next month, we are going to be discussing the culmination of George Lucas's 6 Star Wars films, along with Lucas's sort of pullback from the Star Wars franchise, and discuss the wrap-up of the prequel trilogy with Revenge of the Sith. And that should be a much more interesting review. Let me know what you think of Attack of the Clones. Is this your least favorite Star Wars movie? From my experience, a lot of the internet will tell you that the least favorite Star Wars movie, when there was only 6 of them, was Phantom Menace. My experience is that is not the case. My experience is that this movie is the most hated one. Most people liked the Phantom Menace at the time. It was when this movie came out that they turned not only on the Phantom Menace, but they turned on this film and then the Phantom Menace and pointed to the problems with the Phantom Menace that this propelled forward. But this is the movie that started the downfall, if you will, of Star Wars, far more so than the Phantom Menace did. So what's your opinion out there? Is this the best Star Wars movie? I know people who think this is their favorite Star Wars movie. I know more than one person who thinks that. I only know one person who says Phantom Menace is their favorite movie. But yeah. Anyway, is this your favorite or least favorite Star Wars movie? Where does this movie fall for you? I give it 2 stars out of 4. Like and subscribe. If you're hearing crunching, it's because my cat just chose now to start eating foodies. But anyway, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you next month with a wrap-up for Revenge of the Sith.